Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese of Sioux City. Our co-host, Carmen Bauer, is away today, but she will be back soon. And thank you for joining us for today's episode. Here in the studio today, we have two of our diocesan seminarians, Jimmy Fitzsimmons of Sioux City and Garrett Hugeback of Wall Lake. Both are studying at Kenrick-Glennon Seminary right outside of St. Louis, and they're going to be ordained as transitional deacons at the Cathedral of the Epiphany on June 6th. We're very excited about that. And today they're going to be sharing a little bit about their studies and what they've been working on, and you'll just get to know them a little bit better. So welcome to you both.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks for accepting the invitation. So we'll just kind of switch off who gets to go when, so we're not playing favorites with anybody.
We all know Garrett's the favorite. So.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to say that on the recording, but so we'll just do a little bit of introduction. And Garrett, if you want to just give us a little bit of your background, your home parish, and maybe a little bit about your life before the seminary.
Yeah, I'm Garrett Hugeback. I'm from Wall Lake, Iowa. So my home parish is St. Joe's there in Wall Lake, and I started seminary right out of high school, so grew up in small town Iowa, and then when I was like 10, we moved out to the farm, so even more rural, small town-esque. I went to East Sac County community school, public schooled, and in that time, I kind of had my real aha moment, the vocation story moment was like, I went to Steubenville right before going into high school, so just finished 8th grade, and I was kind of doing my own thing, and I think that I had considered priesthood when I was little, and then kind of strayed away from that, and especially through middle school. It was really just like me doing my thing, and I had my plan. I'm like, could be a doctor, pays well, I'm smart enough to go do it. I was interested in medicine, and just kind of like hanging out with buddies, playing video games, doing what, I thought would make me happy then, and planning ahead for the future, what I thought would make me happy in the future. And then I went to this conference, and the whole time they were just drilling into us like, the Lord has a plan for you. The Lord has a plan for you. And it started to really sink in, and I had this moment then in adoration looking at Jesus there in the host, and he just kind of broke through all the barriers in my own heart of, again, those the little defense walls that I'm like, I have my little kingdom in here, but I didn't realize there was something so much greater outside of me. And so Jesus broke through, and he showed me what he wants to offer me. Even if I don't know what that all looks like, he allowed me to experience him there and to turn to him with that trust to say, lead me, Lord. So, I discerned throughout the rest of high school and then decided to go to seminary when I left.
And you went to Conception for your first few years, right?
Yeah, I did 4 years at Conception Seminary College in Conception, Missouri, just south of the Iowa border. And, this is our third year at Kenrick.
Wow.
Or my third year, I should say, third year at theology.
Mm-hmm.
Time is flying. So, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm always so impressed when I hear the college seminarians tell their story, because it's always like, at 14, I heard Jesus just like break through my walls, and it's like, dang, that's impressive. I wasn't thinking at all about those types of things at 14. Jimmy Fitzsimmons from Sioux City. Little known secret, my parents actually live over the border into the dark land of South Dakota. So don't tell Bishop DeGroot of Sioux Falls that I'm studying for the Diocese of Sioux City. But grew up, went to Bishop Heelan here in town, and then I went to Creighton, where I did ROTC, Army ROTC, studied accounting, had a lot of good friends, just loved Creighton and being there. It's a great community. Then after that, I was commissioned into the military. I served 4 years with the 82nd Airborne, and it was in that time where God just kind of, redirected me. Showed me that I had a girlfriend for 4 years at the time, and God was just like, "Nope, Jim, I'm calling you to the priesthood." And it was kind of just like a rattling, eye-opening experience. But I said yes and moved with him, and my life has been incredible ever since. So I mean, it was always been a good life. But when you say yes to God, incredible things follow.
Now, did you start off at Kenrick, or were you somewhere else before?
Yes. So because I had a college degree, I'm a late bloomer, unlike Garrett. He was 14, I was 24 when I started listening.
Overachiever.
Exactly. He's just a tryhard. So, but because I had a bachelor's degree already, it just took me. I did 2 years of philosophy and then 4 years, and I did those all at Kenrick in St. Louis.
Okay. And it's a fun place to visit if you're ever down in the area.
My nieces and nephews call it Uncle Jimmy's Castle. Because it looks like a castle when you roll up to it.
It does. So. It's got that humongous tower. Yeah. So, yes, we've been blessed to go visit you guys there because my husband has family in the St. Louis area. So, since we're talking about seminary and seminary life, or if someone out there is discerning or has a son, grandson. So, Garrett, do you want to share a little bit about what seminary life is like?
Yeah, I guess I've had the experience of 2 different seminaries at this point, but I would, just going off of what we do at Kenrick, it's really interesting. We've got a building full of college guys on one side of the building and then all the older theologians on the other side. And so we have this span of like 18-year-olds, and then, I don't know, Jimmy, do you know how old the oldest guy in the building is right now?
I think Brother Angelos is 37.
Yeah, we've had guys pushing into their mid-40s at least.
Wow.
So you get quite the range, and so it's really good because you have the life of the young guys and the experience and the maturity of the older guys. So I would say that's kind of the biggest thing that sticks out to me about just like what we're doing in the building, how we're living, is it's a real time for community and being able to build up this brotherhood of guys that we're living with, studying with, pursuing holiness with. It's really, the communal life is incredible. And so it's good to have that. And then the rest of, I think everything else flows out of kind of the communal life and our life of prayer. So we go to classes like normal, it's school, but we have a lot of free time also, I'd say, and especially in these later years. It's kind of the balance between we've got more intensive work that we're doing as far as classes go, and kind of we're leaning into the practical side of things, but we're also, we're kind of freed up a little bit more to work on our projects on the side, which also is great because we've got more ministry opportunities. We can get out. So we're at parishes on Sundays, and then I'm at a parish, or I go to a high school on Wednesday mornings, so once a week. So we're assigned out in the city of St. Louis, and get to interact with parishioners there, get to experience ministry.
Yeah, it's a really cool balance of being a student, but also having, a pretty awesome, intense prayer life. We do counseling, we do spiritual direction, we do formation. So we're a normal student plus all these things. And then also we go out, like Garrett was saying, to the community, and it's beautiful. It's a really awesome life.
It's almost like an internship when you go out to these parishes. It's pretty neat. So we talked a little bit about the seminary life. So what are some of the courses? Direct this to Jimmy, that you've taken while at Kenrick, or if there's any courses that would surprise people that you guys take.
We take all like the sacrament classes, which you think it's like, Garrett and I have been doing these things our whole life, have always had a serious prayer life. We've always had studied the faith in some degree, but to have like an intense class on the Eucharist alone, it's just like, it's incredible. It's mind-blowing how just like diving into what does transubstantiation actually mean. And we've got this professor, Dr. Feingold, who is just, he's a systematic genius. and he teaches like most of our systematic classes, and it's just such a gift to get to take these classes from him. But yeah, well, I guess the more surprising classes is we take some classes on several classes on marriage and the beauty of it, and you would think it's like, oh, that's kind of counterintuitive, but it's like, no, like the vocations go hand in hand. If you don't understand marriage, you're gonna have a hard time understanding celibacy. If you don't understand celibacy, you're gonna have a hard time understanding marriage. And so, yeah, some really cool classes, and we've got it's an ethics class. It's an ethics of just like sexuality and marriage and family life, and the teacher's a priest, and he's so good at just integrating more real life situations and not just theology. So we watched like a podcast by Jordan Peterson, and just like, okay, here's what everyone's out there seeing. What's the good parts that we can really run with, and what is the parts that need to be Christianized. And then we also listened to another podcast by a divorce attorney who writes books on marriage. And it's like, okay, guys, like this is the completely secular view of marriage. How do we, what do we see? What's good in it? How can we apply this? And so the classes, there are several classes that we take in seminary where I get out of it and I'm like, oh my gosh, my life's changed. Like this is different. Like I see things completely differently now. And it's just a gift. And it's not like, I guess differently is not the right word, but just deeper. I guess it's nothing like, oh, I didn't even know this was the way it worked. It's like, oh, I didn't understand how profound that truth was that we have in our faith. And so
that's something that I've noticed since like the beginning of theology going now. We're on the back half, we're toward the end, we got the like systematic, the base like foundation. Here's the information, here's the knowledge. But I've experienced, especially in this last year, a huge transition toward here's how that knowledge not only applies to your life, but like here's how you can present that to others, because not all the people we're going to work with, very few of the people that we're going to be around in the future are going to be walking around with theology degrees. And so we've got, some of the language, just these high and mighty concepts that it's like, okay, bring those down to earth. And Father, the priest who's teaching that sexuality course, he's been really good about just like, hey, how are you actually going to talk about this? What does this mean? And to be able to explain that to people, in a way that's like, okay, let's share these wonderful truths that we've been handed on in our education.
Oh, that's just fun to hear that, because we hear, the seminarians they're busy studying and they're praying. Okay, what else do we know? Nothing. So this is helpful to the rest of us to kind of know what you're experiencing out there. So it's very interesting for me to hear. I don't have a theology degrry.
So you hang around enough priests that I think you basically have an honorary degree in this.
That, and I pick up their bad habits, I think. We won't mention names.
Yeah.
So speaking of you diving deep into topics, so we visited last fall down in St. Louis about you're each preparing a thesis as is required because you're getting graduate degrees. So, and we did talk a little bit about that. So just going to ask what your topic and how did you select it, and then I'll also ask you more questions. So we'll let Jimmy take that one.
Yeah, so I'm writing about the title of it would be From Affirmation to Self-Gift, and I'm really modeling it off of the life of John Paul II and his writings as well. I think some people, we see a person like John Paul II who had this gift of, he could look at you and you knew that he loved you, and he could stop anything he was doing. Like he'd be talking to thousands, and he could then turn and focus his attention on one person and then just like pour out his love on them. And I think it's very common for people to think, oh, the priest, he just doesn't need as much love as other people. And because of this, he then can, pour out and be the guy who is the ultra social worker who isn't married, and he just, but that's just not how we work. That's not how humanity works. We're still very human, Garrett and I. Although we're taking this vow of celibacy, we still need love. And so my whole it's a 3-chapter is what most people do. It's what Garrett and I are doing. And my first chapter is mostly psychology and anthropology, so the study of man, and talking about what does man need to be happy and to flourish. And what I'm calling it is affirmation. But the affirmation that I'm talking about is, it's like a father who looks at his son and delights in him. And his son realizes when you walk into a room and someone is really happy to see you, not because you can do anything for them, but just because they love you, like they light up, and you feel that. You receive the gift of themselves. And that's the affirmation that I'm trying to tease out. This love from one person to another that tells that person that's being loved, I am good. And and so getting into the technicals of what happens in a person, and how do you need what's in all stages of life, you need this form of affirmation. So you need it from your father, you need it from your mother, you need it from friends, you need this love that tells you that I'm good. Because it's only in this place where I know that I'm loved that I then can pour out onto other people with that love that I've received. And so this is the kind of the thrust of the thesis of man needs this love. Most adults get this love from their spouse, another person made in the image and likeness of God, saying, you are so good and I love you so much that I'm going to commit my whole life to you. And without even doing anything, that says a lot about the dignity of each of the spouses, of I'm willing to give my entire self to you. And in celibacy, we don't have a spouse. We don't have a physical wife. And so how does the priest, what I'm diving into is, how does the priest receive this love through his prayer, through his relationships with people? But primarily, even in his relationships with people, those all have to be unified in his relationship with God. And then I'm finishing it. My second chapter is, how does that affirmation look in celibacy? And then my third chapter is the Eucharist. Why is the Eucharist the most profound manifestation of God, of this affirmation? Because you can see it. We have not just a spiritual, we have Jesus' physical presence that the priest, acting in persona Christi, gets to. But he's at the same time, he's receiving that love from God and he's giving it out to the people. And so how that is the most beautiful, and for the priest, the most tangible daily manifestation of the affirmation that he needs to live as a man in this world.
Did a lot of the information that you're looking at, you're writing about, just surprise you? Or did it affirm what you were already thinking?
I would say the latter. I've been praying about this my whole time in celibacy. I'm a very just like loving, passionate person, and I'm like, oh gosh, I need love. What is this going to look like? And God has just slowly revealed this to me as through my prayer and through my studies and in all these things. But there are definitely surprising parts. But when I first started researching, there were just a couple of authors that I was reading. One of them, who's a psychologist named Conrad Bars. He's a Catholic, but he's incredible. And I was reading him, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I just pounded on my jaw. Like, this is what I've been looking for. Like this is
the book.
This puts words into how I feel, and so I'd say it's more that experience. But reading John Paul II, reading Theology of the Body, his different encyclicals as Pope, are always going to surprise you with the depth of his understanding of the human person, of his theology, of how, the incarnation affects us.
Wonderful. And you finish it this academic year. You both do, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That is the plan.
And you have advisors that kind of help you along the way, if I remember from talking to now Father Rosenmeyer. So.
Yeah, it's such a blessing because I can't read everything. I can't read all the things that I would need to read, or even just like going through enough sources. And so having the experts in the building, I found that's been the most fruitful thing for I'm like, oh, this guy is an expert in fill in the blank, in psychology or in the Eucharist. Like, I could read a ton of stuff, or I could go talk to him and have a conversation. And he, not that I don't have to research anymore, but he can really direct my research because he has such a profound understanding of these things.
I had not thought of that aspect either.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears to Garrett and your thesis topic and how you got there.
Yeah, I'm writing about suffering and, redemptive suffering and kind of insert hope. What is the role of hope in that? What does it do to us? What is hope? And yeah, I guess it's coming from kind of a similar place from Jimmy of like, I've been just pondering this for years. So yeah, I think it was now 7 years ago that I experienced the death of my brother and kind of had a traumatic accident at around the same time. And yeah, further down the line in seminary, also experienced the death of my father. And so I'm familiar with suffering, but it was such a pivotal time in my life transitioning into seminary and into this environment of, like good support from a community of guys that are striving for the same thing and know God. And having these priests, good men who know psychology, know the human person, to be able to point out, like, here's what you need. Let's walk with you through this. And then, just this environment of prayer, like, here's the Lord. Here is the one who suffered for you. And, as I unpacked that, especially, like, my first few years, having experienced, like, my first ever serious trauma, it was a time of really learning, like, what is the point of this? And, I was angry, calling out to God, like, why me? What do you want from me right now? And he showed me, walking through, just how suffering can be such an intense participation in his sacrificial love for me, that he offers that love, and then the fact that I have that is something that now I can offer back to him, that I can share in his divine love, and that changes me. So working from that basis, I'm like, I want to talk about suffering in my thesis. I want to research more and put some more academic language and like get into the heart of the theology there. But then, one of the priests in formation also brought up the idea of hope. And I'm like, what is hope? What is that? Because I think it's one of the quintessential problem of today's world, like, is a lack of hope. People are either putting up bars and saying, I don't want anything to do with anything that could hurt me, or they're just living this life like nothing really matters, so I can have all the fun I want, but they don't quite enter into the full seriousness of anything beyond kind of the pleasures around them. And so I'm like, okay, what is the hope that not only allows you to persevere in suffering, but like it drives you towards something greater? And what is happening when that is in me? So my structure for my thesis is going through what is suffering, and then I get into kind of a more experiential knowledge of it a little bit that kind of contrasts, like, here's how we experience despair, here's how we experience presumption, here's the experience of true hope. And then, just like, how do we approach this? And ultimately, kind of just laying out some of the foundations of suffering's not sent by God. It's something that comes from a fallen world because there's sin in the world. But in the Lord's goodness, he's still able to allow us to suffer in the consequences of sin, not deny the reality of it, but also to then lean in and say, there's still merciful love in the world, and I still love you. So going from that, then I kind of transition. If you believe that the Lord still loves you, if you have faith, that offers hope. And so then that transitions into a second chapter, laying out, what is hope? This certain expectation of basically eternal life and all that comes with it, fulfillment in God. The fact that if you can be certain about that, then it actually allows you to remain open to receive that. And so if you don't have that, the tendency is to either put a lid on it and say, okay, I'm keeping everything out that could hurt me, or to just crumble and cave on every desire and ultimately not wait for something better. But hope it's like a brace that holds it open, holds you open, so that the Lord can really enter in there. But it doesn't stop there. And so then, I talk about in the 3rd chapter, what is redemption? What is this oriented toward? And ultimately, it's this transformation that isn't, we don't just stop and it's like, okay, you get all this like niceties for yourself. We don't stop there and just say like, I just want to receive love, like take for myself, but that it's something that we receive and then we are given a share in, that we can also give it. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, that's when it starts to take hold and transform us, and not just give us something for our own pleasure, but it really conforms us to another, to Christ, and brings us into union with God, which is ultimately more fulfilling than just what we get to take in. It's that we get to be with the other. And so, just orienting all of those ideas toward the fact that Christ didn't have to come save us. God didn't have to send a Redeemer, but he chose to enter into our suffering in order to be with us. And so in that suffering, that he offers us this opportunity, really, to choose him, to say, I would rather suffer and remain with you than go anywhere else, than do anything else. Trying to unpack the heart of that mystery, and like, I guess touching on that also, we have the saints, and we see this all the time, like their embracing of suffering and going to martyrdom, spending all-night vigils, all sorts of things that people look at and we go, what are they doing? But it's in their witness of this hope that they share that with us, and we can recognize they have something much greater. Even in the midst of that little suffering, there's something so great there and powerful that we all, as Christians, have the opportunity to pursue, and we should pursue it.
As I listen to both of these stories of your work, what two topics that you will take into the priesthood? You're going to deal, maybe Jimmy being alone in a parish, the only priest in the county maybe, and how do you get your affirmation, because you need that as a human. And you, Garrett, you're going to have more than your share of people coming to you that are suffering either their health or their personal situation, and they're going to ask you, why is God doing this to me? And so I'm sitting here listening, and I'm like, they're going to use this information, which is probably the beauty of the whole formation process. So, as a layperson, that's how I view what you're both working on, and how useful you're gonna find that. So, best of luck as you finish that. I'm sure they'll be great. They'll be great. You'll get it done on time.
Exactly. Tying the bow on all the loose ends.
So that I just love hearing about it. Now that I know you'll have to write a thesis, I'm like asking everybody, what are you writing about? What are you writing about? So just in a couple of minutes we have left, and we'll delve into this more in Lumen Media, but you're going to be ordained here. Your first ordination is transitional deacons. Then a year later, you'll be ordained as priests. We're all very excited for you. So before we let you go, maybe just a couple comments about how you feel about that. Jimmy first, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies. I feel like, or Don and I were talking before this, how 5 years ago I was in the diocese working in the high school in between my time in the military and my time in seminary, and it feels like just last year that was happening, and now I'm coming to the end of my time, and so it's really exciting, and just how God prepares you, how he walks you each step of the journey. And I'm ready to be, as a deacon, we're ordained to be the servants, conformed to the servant of Christ washing the feet of the apostles. And so he's just been preparing me for that, and I have I just desire to serve, and so I'm really excited.
We're excited for you, Garrett.
Yeah, I agree. Time has flown. I've spent over a quarter of my life in seminary. But it's been interesting. Like from the beginning, the focus was kind of like, all right, punk, like sit down, shut up. What we've got to do is first just think about what is it to be human? What's it like to be a good man? And this past year now, as we prepare for the diaconate, it's like, hey, think about being ordained, and to flip that switch in my head it's been a jarring transition, but especially the aspect of doing more practice stuff like preaching homilies has been that was something I was super nervous about. And now we've done it a couple of times, and I'm like, I want to be doing this. I want to preach the gospel. And yeah, praying with some of the elements of the diaconate, charity at the altar, service out in the world to others. I'm like, yeah, it's time. Like, get me out of the classroom and get me into the church, because that's what God has been, that's the spark that he put in there, and that's what he's continued to call me towards all these years. And yeah, it's coming to fruition. So I'm very excited, and yeah, my heart's welling to be able to go out and do what he made me for.
Oh, exciting. And Father Gallos will get you all ready for the particulars of the liturgy itself. And it's,
Sometimes I'm worried that he doesn't pay attention to the details enough, you know?
He's probably having a stroke right now.
Seriously. Jimmy, why'd you say that?
So I really appreciate you coming in here on your Easter break and spending a little time sharing your stories with us, and people can just understand a little bit better about what you're doing in your formation process. And of course, yes, everyone, we're all going to continue to pray for these seminarians and our younger ones as well. So diocesan seminarians Jimmy Fitzsimmons and Garrett Hugeback from Kenrick Seminary, giving us a little glimpse into their lives as seminarians, as well into their different theses, interesting stuff that they will take well into their priesthood. So we're most grateful to both of you for coming in and for your dedication to the church. So have a great rest of this semester. Pray for us. We'll pray for you, and we'll see you at the ordination. And thank you for listening to today's Illuminating Catholics and learning about our seminarians. New episodes drop each Tuesday, wherever you get your podcast, or the Diocese of Sioux City YouTube channel, or at lumenmedia.org. Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.